Folks, for anybody who came in late, we cannot start at 6:30 tonight. We are waiting on one more council member to get here. Due to it being a special meeting, it has to be a super quorum, so I have to have 4 council members present. And he is on his way back from a roads meeting that he had to attend. So we apologize, but it's not on purpose. Everybody, Mayor Pro Tem Tucker has arrived. We'll start in about 3 or 4 minutes, just so everybody can have a chance to get settled in, and Mayor Pro Tem, if he needs to get a water or whatnot. We'll start in 1 minute. It is 6:37. We will call the special meeting to order for Wednesday, January 15th. And again, I apologize to everyone, but it was imperative that the Mayor Pro Tem attend the meeting today, so that is why we will start a little late. With that, I would like to ask Mr. Holla to lead us in our invocation.
All right, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight. We thank you so much for your graciousness. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you just for the world that you've created. You even tell us that in Romans 1:18 through 25, just that the world screams out that there is a God and there is something out there, and it leaves every man and woman without excuse to search for you and look for you. We just thank you so much that you've shown us mercy. We thank you so much for the people that are here. We thank you, Lord, for disagreements. It may sound odd, but it's a way to reach the other person, for them to know you and you to know them to understand why you think what you think and what you think, and for them to do the same with you, and to hopefully reach an accord. We ask that your mercy, your compassion, your patience, your kindness, and your love will permeate this council room with everybody here. Help us as we go about serving you. We thank you for this council. We thank you that they're here, even if people may disagree with them. There are a lot of people on council with their hearts right. They may be, people think, hey, you know what, they maybe go about it the wrong way, but they are trying to serve you. And we ask that people would remember that, and the council would remember that, and they would remember that as they deal with each other, and they deal with the public, and they deal with you. We ask you to bless this time tonight, and thank you so much for your son, and it's his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Holla. Mr. Brewer, will you lead us in our pledges, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In honor of the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, that will bring us to item 3. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight? If not, we will go to...
Yeah, I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I don't know what's going on over here. I'll second.
All right, with the second, all in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Okay, show that unanimous for that approval. And rules of decorum will just be like last time. We're just going to make sure that we're consistently nice to one another from the public as well as from the dais. And my ask is that the council has something, just bring it to me and let me recognize that. I know in the last meeting I paused and allowed 60 seconds by recognizing people. I thought that was a okay idea at the time because of the stuff that was going on. But after further talks with the city attorney, the opportunity is at the citizens' comments to speak. and then also on a hearing item to speak on. Other than that, unless it is a due emergency, we're going to try to refrain from recognizing people. That you have that opportunity during citizens' comments. So with that, we will go to consent agenda. If anyone has anything that would like to be removed from consent, let's talk about that. If not, I will look for a motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Show that unanimous. That will take us to item 7.1. Angela? Oh, I apologize. I just totally said y'all can talk and now you can't. So appreciate that. This is why I love you guys. Thank y'all. So first up is going to be Mr. Tony Crawford. And we did already approve consent, so we'll just skip that one next time.
Tony Crawford, 104 Lavender Place here in McLendon. Since this past summer, I've had the honor to serve with 13 fellow citizens on the Charter Commission. Being chosen and sworn in to help decide the future of McLendon-Chisholm made me feel our job was very important. I very much relish this responsibility. I want to thank the council for the resolution passed establishing the commission and providing us our marching orders. We had a great chair in Judge Rousseau who set the tone of accomplishing the task of developing a well-thought-out document for this extremely important undertaking. I want to thank Councilmember Brewer for preparing the book each member was given that contained vast amounts of information on existing charters. I also want to thank Mr. Holla for his input when we had legal questions. Everybody got right to work and individually reviewing the charters from other municipalities throughout Texas, including Heath, Royce City, Rockwall, to name a few. We picked and chose from each to make a unique document for the city of McLendon-Chisholm. This was accomplished through several multi-hour sessions, which each portion of the document was discussed at great length. We worked together very well and had spirited discussions in our effort to produce the best possible charter. We voted on each portion to ensure this document, the council charged us with creating, was conceived in a democratic manner and gave weight to each person's opinion. Democracy in action. The commission looks forward to the joint session on January 23rd with the council. We look forward to the town hall meetings in which citizens will have the opportunity to be introduced to the document in order to make an informed decision when it comes to time to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. That brings up Mr. Rich Dean.
Rich Dean, 708 Kensington Drive, McLendon-Chisholm. Kind of all over tonight, but I'll start with our last meeting of 12/10/24. Item 7.4 was stricken from the agenda. The item was to discuss and consider abolishing the Water Committee. At the time, and I almost hated to bring up Water Committee tonight because it's not even on the agenda, so I apologize for that. That we almost went the whole thing without Water Committee. But it was a discussion that many of the people that were attending that night were really hoping to hear. And it has really set wrong with me that it wasn't something even allowed to discuss. And which surprised me. The people who would vote against it knew they had the votes to deny abolishing the committee if they wanted to. You can take the water conversation any way you want it at this point. And we know that is the case. All of us know that. Each one of us for the next 2 years, as we pay the F-squared surcharge on our water bill, we will know that you had the ability to take the water conversation any way you wanted. But why miss another opportunity to lecture us on what we don't get about an opposition plan and what we are missing? It was a discussion that I don't know why we didn't have, and so I thought I'd bring attention to it tonight. Regarding 7.3 of today's agenda, I am in favor of honoring people who need to be honored. I am all for honoring people. I'm curious as to why we would honor Dennis Bailey. Tell me an accomplishment he has done for McLendon-Chisholm. I think the thing that detracts from honoring these days is we honor people that have not done anything for us. My personal opinion is that he is the foundation of most of our high-density development issues right now. I'll ask you to prove me wrong on that one. Regarding 7.4, City Council approved 15 members of the Home Rule Charter Commission. I, along with Tony, were happy to be part of that, honored to be part of that, and we created a charter, and now want to take, City Council wants to take the responsibility away from us for that charter commission and make changes. And Councilman Day, you were one that came to our one of the meetings and gave us your comments. We appreciate that. One of the things you said that night was that we needed to have more than 5 voting, if I remember right, on City Council, because 20% of the vote being vested in one person was a lot of power. And yet, here we are at the last meeting. One person deprived everyone in attendance of discussion on the abolishing the water committee.
Mr. Dean, your time's up if you want.
Oh,
Just to
that's
wrap,
what that
wrap it
sounds.
up.
I never made it that
sound.
far
Yep.
before. So, anyway, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that sound is the sound. Maybe we need to change it more like loud, more a negative sound. It is annoying, yes. Always love Mr. Hollow's input. Mr. Kippett, if you choose to speak, you are up next, sir.
Mark Kippett, 31 Fireside Drive. Already over? 3 minutes? Thank you. Thank you to the members of council and to the mayor for serving the public. Thank you to city staff for all you do. The item I want to address is item 8.1. And first I want to congratulate Conrad on completing a shorter term than we would have expected, but fully understand the family considerations, and congratulations on helping move our city forward. But that means it's time to find an interim. And Bev Stevens has been approved by council, and we think what I want to just endorse what council has approved. I have the opportunity over the last several years to work deeply with this city in a number of roles, and also at the county level. So I have interacted with staff, elected officials, citizens from across our county in a wide range. I will tell you, Bev has the knowledge, insight, the temperament. She has the passion in her heart for McLendon-Chisholm. She has far superior to virtually everybody I've come in contact in my actions with government in terms of her ability to do what we need her to do to fill that interim role. She needs to, will be continuing to lead the city forward. Obviously, also helping to find a replacement for Conrad, and then ultimately, if the charter is passed, which I am hopeful it will be, that that will be a hiring for a new position that's going to be a broader range of responsibilities. So all of that is, I think, well within her wheelhouse and well within her ability. And I know Beth's going to be living here after that, so she's going to live with the soup she makes, or have to eat the soup she makes. And I know that will be something she will take that responsibility seriously and carry forward. So I just hope that, I don't know, since executive session, not exactly sure what's intended, but I just wanted to not lose the opportunity to say, Bev is really superior. Her background, temperament, is everything about her. She's a total package, and we're blessed to have her fill as an interim. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Man, I almost want to say thank you, Bev, too. I mean, geez, that's awesome. As always, I will afford the opportunity for any citizen to make a comment. Mark Russo has a sheet filled out, but he is going to speak on the item 7.4 when it comes up.
7.4 or 3?
7.4. 7.4.
I invited him for 7.3. That might be on this.
Okay. He can speak on both, I guess. So he'll speak when those items come up. If he's gotten here in time, he's on his way back from Austin. So with that said, is there anybody else who would like to speak before I close citizens' comments? So it's 6:52. We will close citizens' comments since I pretty much skipped over it almost. Now, Angela, 7.1.
Discuss and consider an ordinance ordering. Did they do the consent? Sorry. They didn't do the consent. Yeah, they did. They did it out of order. Okay, here we go. 7.1, discuss and consider an ordinance ordering a general election to be held on May the 3rd, 2025 for the purpose of electing at-large a council member place 1, council member place 3, and council member place 5, authorizing a joint election order with other Rockwall and Kaufman County political subdivisions, authorizing the mayor or city administrator to enter into an agreement with Rockwall or Kaufman County for the election, providing the manner and means of carrying out said election, designing polling locations and hours, providing for early voting, and providing bilingual election requirements, providing for notice of the election, and providing for publication of the notice for the election.
What was that again?
Nuh-uh.
Thank you, Angela. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
A second.
I'll second.
If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Show that unanimous. 7.2, Angela.
7.2, discuss and consider an ordinance approving the order of a special election for the purpose of repealing the 1/4% sales and use tax within the city currently being used to reduce the property tax rate. This portion of the sales and use tax shall be earmarked exclusively for public safety and/or streets and roads.
I'll entertain a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion that we discuss and consider an ordinance, etc.
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, so this one will have some discussion. So we will start with the city administrator, please, with the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you have heard, this is an item that was originally put into place in 2012. We've done an exhaustive search to find where and how and why, and haven't received anything. We went to the state comptroller, we went to the county. It was definitely a topic and definitely ready to be voted on, but there's in the actual ordinance that when the council came back to approve the vote, it wasn't part of the ordinance. However, with our cautious and understanding and smart city attorney, the better thing to do is to, if you want to change this, is to go back to the residents and ask them. This agenda item is solely that, nothing else. This agenda item says we'd be willing to have the residents vote on whether they want to continue with this subsidization of property tax through sales tax. As you can tell, you probably think the city doesn't get a whole lot of sales tax. However, with 380 agreements that we have in place, we get a decent amount of money. Currently, it's around $200,000, and it will grow as we get additional commercial and other sales tax related entities into the city. This goes to subsidize or to write down the citywide property tax. People get about $7 or $8 less on their property tax bill through that. The request with this election, this is not up to the council to decide whether it's right or wrong, or is to give it to the residents and see if they'd be willing to repeal this subsidization of property tax and change it to exclusively money that goes toward public safety and or roads and streets. That's what's before you. That's what we'd like to suggest that would be on the agenda. But what you would be doing with an affirmative vote tonight is saying, yeah, we're willing to put that on the agenda. And that's why there's language in this ordinance similar to what was read on the last one, because we have to meet all the state requirements and language and stuff to put it on the agenda. And just let the residents decide if they want to continue having it subsidize the property tax, or if they'd be willing to use that same money and put it toward roads, streets, and public safety.
Thank you, Conrad. Mr. Easter.
Thank you. I think this sounds like something that's a reasonable thing to do to allow the citizens and residents to determine how they allocate their resources. And so I appreciate you putting this on the agenda and following up on this. Thanks.
Mr. Brewer.
I'm fine with letting the people vote on something like this, but I would like to probably see some more specificity, like to roads, just making it for road repair. That's my thought about it. But I do think if we go ahead and approve today, it'll come back on the next agenda. By then, we should get some feedback from the public as to whether or not they want to even entertain this for a vote. And I would encourage people to give us that input. Then we might be able to decide whether it should be for roads, for public safety, a combination of both, or not at all.
Mr. Day.
So this came up last year, and I voted no on it last time. And the reason why I voted no on it last time is it has a net increase in property tax. So property tax will go up. It is a change in terms of how it does, but it's still a property tax. It also doesn't really go into the general fund, so it removes some of the discretion. So just like last year, I did not support it. I won't be supporting it this time.
Mr. Tucker.
This has been lurking for the past 3 years. I've been in council 3.5 years, and there's been a lot of discussion about making modifications in this. And so I think it's really democracy in its purest form to some degree. It's just give it back to the people and let them make the decision on how they want to treat this. I would like to see it be directed towards streets. That's my own preference, simply because to a great degree, we've ignored the funding of streets and street maintenance and repair. And I think if the money are directed towards streets, that would start something in the future, that we recognize the fact that we need to continue to fund streets and maybe increase that beyond just what's being provided through this rebate.
I actually agree with Councilmember Easter, Councilmember Brewer, and Mayor Pro Tem Tucker. It is exactly democracy in action, and it is exactly why the people should have a say on that. And so I would be in favor of this as well. So we've had the Motion and a second. With no further discussion, we'll do a roll call vote on this one. Mr. Easter?
Aye.
Mr. Brewer?
Aye.
Mr. Day?
No.
Mr. Tucker?
Aye.
So that passed 3-1. So I know that Judge Russo is really wanting to speak on apparently 7.3 and 7.4. So with that, I will go ahead and take us into executive session at 7:01 to discuss items 8.1 and 8.2. And at that, we will be in executive session. Apologize. City Council for the City of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas reserves the right to convene into executive session anytime during the course of this meeting to discuss any of the matters listed as authorized by Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. 074. We'll be in executive session at 7:02. It is 8:18. We are back from executive session, and no action will be taken on the executive session items. So that will take us to 7.3. Angela, on 7.3.
Okay, 7.3, discuss and consider action to recognize retired Rockwall County Commissioner Dennis Bailey's career of public service.
Mr. Day. I apologize. I'll entertain a motion on 7.3.
I'll make a motion to discuss and consider, excuse me, action to recognize retired Rockwall County Commissioner Dennis Bailey's career of public service.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, Mr. Day.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to consider this. Dennis Bailey's been in public service as a county commissioner for our region for 16 years. That's a long period of time for public service. And this is not about his politics. This is not about his density issues. I mean, nobody's going to agree 100% with their politicians. I mean, they just aren't. I mean, you might agree 70% of the time or 60% of the time. I bring up the analogy that, you know, just because somebody's in law, you might be an attorney and you might say, this judge hammers us every single time we come in here, but that doesn't mean that when they retire, you don't go and celebrate their retirement and enjoy the fact that they put in public service, sitting in front of that courtroom for a very long time, got a lot of arrows, a lot of spears thrown at them, whether right or wrong. This is a hard job. I mean, trust me, it's a hard job, and you know, a lot of people are vying to do this, and you get a lot of stuff thrown at you. And most of it, quite frankly, is unjust. I actually thought that Mr. Bailey's been an interesting mentor. I got to know him a little bit over the last year and a half. I found him to be a likable guy, a friendly guy, and the more that I talked about him and the more I learned about him, the more I realized he's just a really fascinating public official. And when I found out that he was retiring, I thought that it would be a good idea for the city, whom, you know, he's actually served this area for 16 years. It would be worthwhile to at least have a conversation about what we could do to honor the people that put their names in the hat and get, you know, they put themselves through this for a long time. I mean, it's a hard job. Not just this, but like about the Commissioner's Court, everybody's paying attention. So this is about Mr. Bailey and his legacy and his public service and what he's put out for himself. I just wanted to open it up for the opportunity. This is I haven't really had a conversation with anybody about it. I just really think that he's a great guy. Again, you don't have to agree with his politics. I mean, you don't have to agree with his views on density and this and that and the other. But this is about him as a person. And so I asked a couple of people in town, a couple who could make it that have known him for the longest period of time and have worked closely with them, if they'd say a couple public comments, just nice things about him, if they'd be willing to do so. But one person wasn't able to respond. I don't want to say his name, but he would have done it had he had enough time. But I'd like to open up the podium so that if anybody would like to say something about their experience with Mr. Bailey, I would love to hear it.
Well, I said in the beginning that we would open it up if it was to an agenda item, so I'll honor that. But I would only ask that you have 60 seconds. If you want to speak on Dennis Bailey, you have 60 seconds.
Mark Russo, 1519 Barolo Drive, and worked with Dennis Bailey for 12 years. And he is a statesman in the way that he always approached, and he has been a mentor to me. I will tell you, Council, it's a pleasure to be with you today, but he wasn't one that likes a lot of limelight. Now, he does have a street named after him, but he also, a lot of people don't know, he was mayor of Heath at one time. He also was a judge in a movie called Bomb City. He worked many years with AT&T, and he's well known in Austin, but he also worked very hard on the jail. So all I'm going to say is he has been a dedicated servant. He is one that would always take time and to build up, but he's also, if you were to do anything for him, I think the most I think he would probably want would be a day. He's not a big about him person. It's about the community. So I think really that would be the most I would probably say, something small. But the truth is he really would tell you that it's about the community, not about him. So he's not that kind of leader. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kippett.
Mark Kippett. So I've known Dennis Bailey for now since 2016, so 10 years. Worked very closely with him on a number of projects. He is a public servant. I agree with Councilmember Day on that. He's always kept the community in his heart. He's tried to make the best decision. Agree, disagree. He and I have disagreed on some key issues, but we've always been civil. We've gone to Brahms together, had hamburgers, but I also agree with Judge Russo. He's a humble person. He would not want a lot of public recognition. And I agree with Mr. Dean. We have to be careful. Living officials, glorifying living officials after they leave. So I would encourage the council to do a certificate, if you wish, proclamation. I think that would be the appropriate recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kippett. Is there anybody else before I start letting the council speak? Okay. Mr. Easter, do you have any input on this, sir?
I've had limited contact with Mr. Bailey, and I don't know him that well. But I think just as a general matter, based upon what I've heard from the speakers and from Councilmember Day, I think anyone that has put in that much time for public service and they retire, I think, whether you agree with them or not, I think it's helpful to do something to, just a proclamation or something along those lines are good. I think that it encourages people to participate, even if it's something that's really unpleasant, undesirable, getting, like I think you said, getting arrows shot at you and everything. So I think as a general matter, it sounds like a reasonable consideration.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brewer?
Yeah, I'll kind of echo what Mr. Easter said. I think whether you agree with some of the decisions that were made or not, the fact is he's put in his time for the community, 16 years on a commission or council or whatever. That's like a lifetime. And so I do think that a proclamation is probably appropriate, just for the fact that he put himself in the arena. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Day? You pretty much already spoke on it. So.
I could add just one additional. I did not let Mr. Bailey know I put this agenda item on. I just did this on my own, because he is that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that shows up, he's got a coffee in his hand, he just wants to make sure everybody's good to go. I got a call, I'm glad Mr. Russo, he can back me up on this story, because I usually don't have somebody to support me on this. I get this random phone call, and Mark calls me, he goes, "Hey man, where's your wallet?" "What? Where's your wallet, man?" And he's laughing at me. And I said, "This is true. This is how he does it." And I said, "You know what? That's a good, let me go." And I started looking around the house, and he starts cracking up. He goes, "I got your wallet, man. I got your wallet, man." And it turned out that I had been at Tom Thumb. I put my wallet, which I usually keep in my back pocket, I put it up in the front. And of all people, Dennis Bailey had found my wallet and handed it off to Judge Russo downtown in Rockwall. So he was teasing me about it. And then the funny thing is, the very next morning I ran into Commissioner Bailey, and we had a really good laugh about it. But that's the kind of guy you could look. And then they spent an hour mentoring me, just talking to me about patience and working with things and difficult problems and what it means to have principles and to stand by those principles. I found that my conversations with him were he was a very sage person in terms of where he was coming from. Again, he might not make the same decisions that a lot of us would make, But that doesn't mean he wasn't trying to make a positive imprint on the people that he touched. I never saw the man, at least in my dealings with him in the last 2 years, ever be nasty to anybody. So.
Thanks, sir. Mayor Pro Tem, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I had a number of conversations with Dennis Bailey over the past several years. I've known him probably about 3 or 4 years now, maybe even a little bit prior to me getting on council. And yeah, we talked about a lot of different issues, roads, water in particular. He resurrected some of his memories from having been mayor in Heath at the time that they were going through trying to take water under the auspices of the city, working with RCH. So there was kind of a parallel there. Talked to him about public safety and the concerns I particularly had when I came on council with public safety and its funding, and eventually we were able to, Lorna Kippen and I were able to get some additional funding at one point by going through him and talking to him and letting him know about our concerns about the lack of funding that we're getting specifically to cover residents in the ETJ, county residents. So he recognized that we're struggling to some degree in terms of supporting our fire safety program and worked in that regard to help us along. Very entertaining to speak to. I mean, you could speak with him for hours, it seemed like, and whenever we did have a conversation, we would arrange, typically over at Tom Thumb with a coffee, it would be 3 or 4 cups of coffee, it would seem like. He would go on and on with stories, but he was just a wealth of experience. And from that, I gleaned a whole lot. And somebody mentioned mentorship, and I think that's what I was extracting from him, whether he knew it or not, was that he was becoming a mentor to me to some degree. Just his wealth of experience over the 12 or 16 years that he had served. Just a real depth of knowledge of the history of Rockwell County, North Texas Municipal Water District. I mean, all the various organizations that have played a role in the development of the county. He had some knowledge about or had interacted or been part of. So as far as recognition, yes, I think we should minimally recognize him as a public service, and I don't think we're glorifying anybody in this case. I don't think we're going to go in that direction. I think it's just a sheer recognition of a public servant that has served for, I think it's 12 years, but maybe 16 years. And as all of us on this dais know, it's difficult to serve at times. It becomes a challenge. But those are the people, there are people that rise to the surface, and he's been one of them. So certainly recognition is due.
Ditto. It's I would just echo all the same things. I mean, I work with Dennis Bailey often, so now that we have the motion in a second, I had shared with Paul just now, so y'all know we weren't telling secrets. I was asking him as far as recognition goes. I heard proclamation a few times, so I was like, proclamation is good. One of the things that we have always done at the end of somebody's service in the city is the McLendon-Chisholm street sign. So I felt proclamation in the service, what we've traditionally done, do a street sign. So that would be my recommendation, to do something along those lines, that way the proclamation is done. Street sign, very simple, very humbled, probably quick and easy. It sounds like would be something Mr. Bailey would appreciate. So that would be my recommendation. You were the council. I know Paul was going to offer something, so we'll send it back to him and then we'll go from there.
So that was what you were conveying earlier. Okay.
So Paul was thinking plant a tree and a plaque. What my note was to Paul was saying, I agree with Mr. Kippett. you typically, generally, normally, do not glorify a living in that manner. That is usually something that is post, like the naming of a ship, naming of the fire station, items like that. And when you're making something permanent, it's usually post. And I'm not trying to say the other word, but y'all can put post together. So that is why I think the proclamation and street sign is perfect, because that's what we've always done for our end of service people too. So that's what I would recommend. I would shy away from the tree, because I would even venture to say Mr. Bailey, if he is what Mr. Russo and Mr. Kippett and others have echoed, I think he would even agree that is something that you do because it's so permanent, like maybe post Mr. Bailey. See, I was trying not to say it and I ended up saying it, so I apologize.
Well, I'm wondering if there's any good reason to ask Mr. Bailey what his preference is on something like this.
If you're going to honor somebody, I don't think you would ask them. I think that would be an inappropriate thing. I mean, even look at Judge Russo's grimacing out there. I think if you're going to honor somebody, you don't call them and say, "How would you like to be honored?"
Well, here's your choices.
Mr. Brewer, do you have anything to add?
No, I think a proclamation and a street sign's fine, but, because it'll be in the house and he can look at it every day.
Mayor Pro Tem? All right, well then I will entertain however y'all want to make that motion of recognition, and then we can move on to 7.4.
So I'll go ahead and move to authorize a street sign and proclamation for Dennis Bailey in remembrance of his his career of public service for the district and for the city.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Show that unanimous, and I know the vote's been made, but maybe it wouldn't hurt for y'all to type up a nice letter as well. Then they would give them one and something from you that's more personal to them. All right, 7.4, Angela.
Discuss and consider establishing a date for a special meeting to review and make changes, if deemed necessary, to the proposed home rule charter.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to discuss and consider establishing a date for a special meeting to review and make changes if deemed necessary to the proposed home rule charter.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, with that second, Mr. Russo has a form filled out to speak on item 7.4, so before we get started on that, you will be allotted the 3 minutes because you filled out the form for this item. So, Angela, if you can set the timer for 3 minutes for Mr. Judge Russo.
Thank you. Mark Rousseau, 1519, Chairman of the Commission for Charter. And today, just on approach as we talk about this Charter Commission has worked diligently. And today and present, I'm not going to try to make too much, but I do want to acknowledge that we have several members. So if you're a member of the commission, will you please just raise your hand? Council, Mr. Mayor, I just want you to see that they attended a lot of our meetings. We had great attendance at every meeting of the 5 meetings we had. The people that you selected were excellent choices, and they did the work hard, and they took the time out of their personal life for free, and they're here. They're here to show their support of this charter, and as we go into the Joint Commission, I think that what they would say is that this is a constitution for our city. We worked hard, and we did yeoman's effort work when it came to, when you look at other charters across the state, they would take a year and a half. We met your deadlines. We have met your expectations, and it's been an honor to work with these people, but they did it to work for our city, and not everything is, each one had their own personal preferences, but we compromised and we worked together to bring what was best for the city in the future. There will be other recommendations, and it would not be appropriate to talk about that today, as the agenda is about the discussion and meetings. So whatever you come through, we hope that you will appreciate and honor the respects of the commission. And that's what I would like to tell you today. It's an honor to serve you and this city. So on behalf of all of us, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russo. I appreciate the comments. We've had the second and the motion. This is Mr. Day's item, so I'll let him start.
Yeah, what I was hoping to do is open up an organic conversation up here on the dais talking about this. I have, people have objected I haven't talked to Mr. Burr, but we're doing it right here, and actually I just wanted to do an open session because we only had a few items anyway to talk about. To figure out what the schedule, we're meeting for a workshop on the 23rd to discuss this, is my understanding. And then can we talk about the series of follow-up meetings so that I can understand the architecture of what that decision-making is going to look like, or to see whether or not a special meeting would be useful for the purposes of commandeering further public input for the purposes of making changes, which is to say a recommendation to the committee if they decide to implement that into their thought process. That was the intention of this. So I wanted to find out what the schedule that we're looking at is, and to see if we need to create breathing room for ourselves to have a meeting where it's just us coming together with public comments and then making a recommendation saying we've got this or whatever it is. Sometimes people have have better relationships with their city council members than they do with maybe a charter member that they don't know, or somebody that is effectively a political novice. So I just wanted to bring that up as an opportunity for public breathing space where they can come in and come up to here and say, well, it's been a week since we had that workshop, and I've been thinking about it, and it turns out that I have a different view having thought about it, and I want to see if I can get that input in. Maybe they'll still reconsider it. What does that window look like where we have to close the door and then the public no longer gets the opportunity to make a change? It's out.
Okay. Happy New Year, by the way. So the schedule is this. We agreed to have a joint, I say we. When I say we, I'm just speaking for the commission right now. Judge Russo is welcome to pipe in if he, Mark Russo, yeah. So the plan was to have a joint meeting with the city council on January 23rd. There would be a presentation of the latest draft of the home rule. It's open to the public, obviously, of the charter by the commission. And then there would open up a public hearing with a discussion with the public on the proposed home rule charter to get input on what's been presented.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that also going to be on the 23rd?
Yes.
It is, okay.
And then at the close of the public hearing with the public, there's also a specific agenda item where city council can interact with the commission to ask questions, give input. Maybe if you've talked to constituents that aren't comfortable talking to the commission itself, you can reflect those as well. At the conclusion of that, there would be a discussion amongst the commission members to consider any changes to the proposed Home Rule Charter Commission. And if there are any changes that they want to make, they are welcome to make the vote, and those changes would happen. And then there would be a discussion next steps. Now, you asked about timeline. So we have to have it, to get it on the May election ballot, we have to approve it, to put it on the ballot, not approving the document, approved to put it on the ballot on by no later than February 14th, actually before February 14th. So in our schedule, we're looking at February 11th as the drop dead date. Now we can have, depending on how many changes there are, we can have an earlier meeting to do that, to put it on the ballot on the January 25th. But it just depends on how many changes. And quite honestly, the commission may decide we need an extra day or a couple days that following week, following our joint meeting, to go back over some things and present the document as they were charged to do. But the drop dead date, we have to do it before February 14th, or February 11th is the drop dead date. And Mr. Holla, please.
Thank you, Councilmember Brewer. So I drafted a proposed agenda for the meeting as just to kind of dovetail on what Councilmember Brewer was saying. And it's a joint meeting, both bodies. So you've got the city council opening the meeting, the commission opening the meeting, council opening the public hearing, then the commission opening the public hearing. They'll both run at the same time. And that's and I've got it put on there where it's discussion. It's not just a public hearing where, as you know, we're not really allowed to talk. We hear what the public wants to say. But if I remember correctly, I've got it listed as discussion. So public hearing, because this isn't required by the statute, so we have more freedom to do it certain ways. And Angela did a fantastic job of getting it in the paper with our unique setup periodicals. It was kind of tough to do it the way we normally do it. And even though there's no requirements, I prefer doing the way we've normally done it, just to be consistent. But Angela did a fantastic job and deserves a lot of credit for getting them to get it in the paper. So we'll have discussion with the public, questions with the public, and all of that. Then the council will close, when that's done, council will close the public hearing. Then the Home Rule Charter Commission will close the public hearing. And just as Councilmember Brewer said, there will then be an item for discussion and potential action, if anybody wants to, between council and the Home Rule Charter Commission. Now, what everybody's probably not aware of, I believe I've mentioned this to Councilmember Brewer, in terms of on the meeting, there is one big, huge item that is all the city secretary's job. I believe it is, and Bev's going to love it if I can't quote it correctly. I think 9003C, what it requires is at least 30 days, and so I like a couple days wiggle room, by April the 1st. By April the 1st, and this is good for everybody to know in here, we have to mail out a copy of the proposed charter to every single registered voter in the city. As you can imagine, that's a pretty big Herculean type task. And so I wouldn't want our last meeting, if there's going to be changes, to be, say, March the 31st or something like that. I wouldn't recommend something like that. So yes, if we've got and can get all the meetings and things wrapped up, say like by the middle of February, and have something that's ready to go to the vote, that is probably the best. That gives a whole month and a half for, if my math is right, that's why I'm to law school, I don't math. But yeah, that's about a month and a half before we got to get everything out. That gives the city plenty of time to get all the proposed charters mailed out to each citizen. To just give you a heads up on that as well, because that's a pretty big deal. I just want to make sure I mentioned that.
And Mr. Holla, could you clarify to the council exactly what the role and responsibilities are when we're doing a charter, like commission versus city council role in that creation of the charter?
Yeah, it is all up to the council is pretty much, y'all will love this, it's just like plats. Hey, you know what? If it's administratively complete and it complies with subdivision orders, there's no choice, have to prove it. Very much the same thing. You look at the statute, vote on charter, that's the title of it. The council's job, they shall submit to the voters the commission as provided by the Home Rule Charter Commission. So the council, absolutely, like what we're doing, I think is great. Having the council weigh in on it, having the public discuss or ask questions, and the charter, all that is fantastic. But ultimately, whatever commission, the Charter Commission comes up with, whether anyone else likes it or not, that is what goes to the voters. And we also have to do it, it's also a little technical, because we have to do it in a way that each section can be voted on by the voters. I don't remember exactly how many sections, but that's, yeah, I mean, so, and there are good questions. Like Angela asked, well, what happens if they approve one section in other sections? I just emailed her back, shut up, Angela. But, that's, because that's, theoretically that could happen. More than likely, probably not. But there are I'm trying to stress how tedious and meticulous and pedantic this process is with everything. And so I guess we had 5 meetings. I think I was here for 3. It was a good 3 hours, 3.5 meetings we were here each time I was here. So they put some work into it. They didn't agree necessarily on everything, but they ultimately worked it out the way I think that you should. And quite honestly, oh gosh, I don't want to give Judge Russo a big head, but they either one of them, I don't want to give a big head. But the Charter Commission really did a fantastic job of working through. I mean, they really did, working through everything, and that's just opinion of a minimum wage attorney. So that's just, I want to make sure I stress that. But there was a lot of work that went into it. It's very detailed, and I strongly suggest whatever meetings we do have and everything, we do get wrapped up by February, so we can make sure that we get it all out in a timely manner and with all those details. So.
Thank you for that. And I would add too, usually I've seen it in first charters. I think it might have been Fate that did the per section vote, which made for a long ballot. But there are several cities, in fact, Heath did the same thing. They just put a clause in there that, as the first one, that basically it would make the document, if somebody voted out that they didn't want 6 council people, right? Then if that was voted out, but left everything else good, it creates some problems about how do you work through that. So they put a clause in there that, as the first charter, that it would be the whole document that's reviewed. And as far as I know, that's stood up, because several cities have done that.
Well, and that's one of those things where, quite honestly, you're never going to know that unless somebody files a lawsuit and challenges it in court. And it's a good point to bring up. I don't necessarily, I'd have to think about it, because the statute is very clear that it's got to be broken up, that they can potentially vote on each section. I am hopeful, with as active a citizenry as we have in our city, that, because that's a great point, that if you vote yes for pretty much the whole thing except for 2 or 3 sections, like the 6 city council members, it kind of makes 0 sense, and there's not at all worth having a charter. And I get where the law comes from, because many times, and you've heard me say this, many times the law doesn't necessarily make sense. But here, what if you've got a very controversial topic, like how they do the recall, or how you do referendum, or something that a charter can still function, and the city can still function without something like that. That can be very, 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 very helpful. But I see where the law is coming from. It's like, okay, look, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we vote yes on every section except for one of those. Well, okay, we can still function, and we can take that up in 2 or 3 years if we have a charter amendment. So that's good to know. I mean, that's a tough one for me because of the way that the statute is written. We got time. I don't want to rush into anything. I don't want to make sure we educate the citizens, because we got a bunch of educated citizens, and that's good. So they're going to get the concept of, wait a minute, things that are the crux, the nidus of the charter. All right, yeah, that's stuff we want to make sure we agree upon and everybody passes, versus the other stuff. I mean, they may not be totally ancillary, but they're not the main portion of, like those sections that I mentioned. And I know Councilmember Brewer's probably going to get mad at me, but I just want to make sure that we get it done the right way so nobody can challenge it. And maybe putting something in there, look, I'll tell you what, having an option in there, if you want to approve the whole charter at once, go down here and vote it down here. Maybe something like that. Would that be a happy medium?
Just as the choice, yes or no, on the whole charter? Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, in the draft, if you look on chapter 15, or section 15, chapter 15, section 15, the way it's worded would be how it would be on the ballot. And it says, Forgive me for reading it. This charter shall be submitted to the qualified voters of the city of McLendon-Chisholm for adoption or rejection of the 3rd May of May 2025, at which election, if a majority of the qualified voters voting in such election shall vote in favor of the adoption of this charter, it shall then immediately become the governing law of the city of McLendon-Chisholm, Texas, until amended or repealed. It being impractical to submit this charter so that each subject may be voted on separately, it is hereby prescribed that the form of the ballot to be used in such election shall be as follows, to wit, for adoption of a charter or against adoption of a charter.
Actually, I like, no, see, thank you very much for that. I like that a lot because that's almost straight from the statute. Because the statute requires it as much as practicable or as practical as you can be, you need to have it voted up by sections. But that right there, that fully addresses the statute itself. I'm good with that. So that's then your yes or no to the whole thing, because we're saying, hey, look, we recognize the law, and it's just not practical to do it any other way than the way we're doing it. I'm good with that.
And I'll just throw in this one thing, because you were talking about citizen interaction. There's going to be a number of, I call them town halls, but it may be more of presentations to the public about the charter, especially in March and April as we get closer to the vote, because we want people to understand it. And if they have a question about why something was voted, whatever, the commission members have said that they're willing to participate in that to help educate the public into why they're doing what they're doing. Every meeting has been very public. We follow Open Meetings Act. We put on not only the city web page, but also a link, so if somebody had comments on anything that they were doing that they could watch on tape. I know we had some issues with the microphones, or even if they showed up, they're welcome to submit items, and it would go straight to the commission so they could see it. Really tried to be as transparent about everything that they do. And I think that if the intent of this item was to just facilitate where we are on the calendar and all that, that's fine. But if you want to have a meeting to talk about the charter, then it should be with the commission present, because they're the ones who put the work in. They're the ones who put hundreds of hours on this collectively. They went. So
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's why I called for a special meeting, as opposed to a big, that's not the scope of it. The scope is to be able to, there's going to be a meeting, right? So the way this happens all the time on city council, where we vote on a thing, and then the next day we go, oh my God, we didn't know that, the public doesn't know this, and we got to fix it, kind of thing. And what you're saying is that on the 23rd, we have a bite at the apple, a first reading. But we are not scheduled for a second reading. And so what I'm saying is the public, I think, having the opportunity of a special meeting, we could solicit that feedback in, where people say, listen, you guys, you got it, had your chance to ask your questions, but after sleeping on it, I realized that the meaning of this could have these additional implications. And the question is when does that window of comment close for the commission, such that they will no longer take public comment and change the charter? At what point does the city council need to say, it is what it is, and we're not here to solicit public comment anymore for the purposes of them facilitating a better document? That's all I'm asking. And so if there's an opportunity to produce a second reading, where we come in and we say, wait a minute here, it's been posted for a week. I know that there are some people that really love the charter, there's some people who are lukewarm about it, and there's going to be people that hate it, okay? My goal is not to actually change it. I told Mr. Russo when he became chair, I said, if you do this, I have no intention of getting involved in changing or altering or any of these other things. I will have opinions, but I'm not going to change it. I'm going to advance it as is, and that's all this is. This is just about facilitating public comment to make sure they're getting what they want, so that this single bite at the apple doesn't wind up becoming the mistake. I'm just saying, give us a second opportunity, or keep that door open for public comment, either to us or to them or to others. And the reason why and I have not had a conversation with anybody about this. This is happening organically in front of everybody. This is an open meeting. So I'm soliciting this. And if it's wrong, and if it's improper, we say, fine, we're not going to do that. We'll
I can
close the
offer
door.
a suggestion on that. I can say, look, from what I've seen in the commission, they have been unbelievably bending over their back to, I mean, they're giving up their Wednesday nights to be here till 9:30, 10 o'clock.
But I'm not really, so you can see, I'm not bringing the commission in
No,
on this.
I know,
This is
but
just
I'm
from
going to answer your
us.
question. So my point is setting that up, how willing they are to talk. I think if you wanted to have 50 meetings and 50 discussions, they wouldn't necessarily be a fan of it, but they would do it because that's their dedicated. My comment on that is have as many as you like, call as many discussions, as many public hearings as you want. My suggestion is be done with that around the 14th, maybe 21st of February, probably for sure by the 21st of February. Angela and everybody has to have time to get these charters in the, I'm concerned about that because it's very specific in the statute, to get that done. And honestly, I think some kudos need to go out to Councilmember Brewer. The guy is here, he does everything. I mean, he's the AV guy, he is the secretary, he is the water, I mean, seriously, does everything, he organizes it, he gets everything I need to go over everything. So he's done everything with this commission, and I guarantee he's also willing to answer questions and offer opinions and things like that, and he would be willing to have as many meetings as we want. And I'm fine with as many as we want. My suggestion is for sure by the 21st, just so we can get everything set up by April 1st, to have it done by then.
I actually disagree. This has to be done by February 11th. Because if that's what they're going to vote on, to put that on the ballot, Angela's nodding her head, it has to be February 11th. To add another 10 days to it pushes it back even more, shortens your timeline.
And I'm fine with that, but my understanding is that's just when we have to call the election.
This is a commission's call too.
So we just have to call the election.
We call the election by the 11th, but this is all the commission in their work. If that's, I just don't think we as the council up here need to be dictating to the commission.
No. Okay, wait.
Well, that's,
I'm
and maybe
not
I'm misunderstanding it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm
It just
saying
needs to be
is,
the 11th.
however many meetings that the commission and council everybody want to have, I'm not hung up about that. What I just want to make sure of, however many everybody do decide to have, I want it to be done in time so Angela and we can get everything out to the registered voters and have it ready for May. That's all I care about, is making sure we follow the law and get the mailings out, and making sure we follow the law and get it posted there on the at the May election. That's all I care about. So however y'all do it.
Mr. Brewer, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, as I understand it from Angela, we have to have it before the 14th to the election people, and so that has to be
the charter or the special election ordinance.
We're supposed to have the wording for the ballots.
And I've already given you that. That's the proposition that I put on the special election. So we're good on that. We got that covered. We don't actually have to have the actual charter. I don't think. You just want the ballot language, right? No. Or does the ordinance call for the exhibit that's the charter?
The exhibit that's the charter.
Okay, then there you go. Yeah. Yep. So there we go. Yeah. Then I would say you need to be done with stuff a lot sooner than that. Yep.
So February 11th is, for lack of better terms, our D-Day. Like, we need to be going.
I mean,
it needs to be
I'd say
done off
before
that council. I agree.
That, yeah.
I would like to see it January 28th at that council meeting, and then if there is something that has to be changed, buttoned up or whatever, then we can do it on the 11th. But to me, January 28th is. That's what I would.
Well, because then let's say, here's the thing. Let's say we do have this meeting, and the Charter Commission says, "Hey, I'm not sure if we want to change anything, but we heard some really good points, so we want to at least talk about it and have another meeting." We got to give them 3 days to post it in accordance with law and say, "Hey, look," so they'll give an agenda note. It may be the same agenda, but we still got to give 3 days notice. And, so, yeah.
And if he has January 23rd, so in essence, you'd have the January 23rd Council Commission joint meeting, special meeting that has that. We can have on the 28th to Councilmember Day's point, that second opportunity. So your January 23rd is your first bite of the apple, to use your term. Second bite of the apple is the scheduled 28th council meeting. And then that should have us set to vote on the 28th. I mean, we could do the hearing, let the comments be said. make
Okay,
the
so you're
vote.
saying have another public hearing on the charter for our council meeting on the 28th?
Maybe I misspoke on it.
No, I'm just trying to
saying,
understand.
like,
Is that-
I'm trying to accomplish the 23rd special meeting, 28th regular meeting. There's the two opportunities. And, you know, and mind you, the people have had all the opportunities to come to all the commission
True,
meetings as well.
True.
I mean,
And some
a
people
link
have,
to
some
some,
people
so it's like
No, you're right.
28th, and then let's dance. I mean, we got to move on. We can't just. I mean, how many special meetings we want to have to allow people to come up could be tiresome.
Yeah, I mean, that's my view, is the city council can continue to take in public comments on behalf of the commission, and then if not directly, of course, people can still go to the commission. If anything comes in, then fine. If we get nothing, then we cancel the meeting. I mean, that was my view, and I was thinking, in terms of my time, I'm looking at January 30th or February 4th as kind of that time, and at that point, what's done is done. And if there's changes that the commission decides to take up and to alter the charter simply because they've reconsidered it based upon this input, then they have time to do that. You know, but I mean, it's not my goal to interfere. My goal is to make sure that this is enough information coming through it so that nobody will ever say, well, I didn't know, or I
think
didn't know.
the simplest thing is.
I want to make sure it's going to be the best possible document.
Yeah, I think the
And it's-
simplest thing is to have the meeting next Thursday, and if the Home Rule Charter Commission, if they decide based upon that, they want to have another meeting, then they have another meeting. If not, we move on. Exactly. It's their call.
Well, yeah, it always was. I don't know why that people keep talking about that. I understand that. It doesn't say commission on here at all. It talks about what we're doing as our responsibility to make sure that we get the public comment to those people that are doing the work. A lot of people don't feel comfortable coming up to that commission. They don't know the people. A lot of them are political novices. They're more comfortable with others. And you don't have to agree, but I think having a meeting where, if necessary, that helps facilitate this and gets a better document, I think that's fine. I'm not going to change what they've done. That's not the goal of this. The goal is about making sure that people have the opportunity to get bites at the apple. I don't want to ram this through and be accused of ramming something through. You had one meeting and you guys all knew this. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. I want them to say, this was brought up, we discussed it. We want them to be able to come back and get a second bite at the apple and talk about it. I think that that's completely reasonable. I don't know why that's would be a problem.
Just to encourage you a little bit, there's no way anyone could ever say that because you didn't have a choice on this. So you didn't ram anything through. So, and I'll tell whoever needs to hear that, I'll be happy to tell them. I got you.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure we cover all bases. That's all this is a precautionary approach to, I mean, you're building a charter, and if it's a time bomb and it blows up on you, you at least want to be able to give yourself enough time up front to make sure that you get in front of it. That's all. You want as many eyes as possible, as much input as possible to be able to make the best document as possible. That's all. And so I mean, I was going to suggest that you schedule a special meeting for the city council to be able to go over what that feedback was, and if we could invite Mark Russo to the event, we can give him the public comments. If we can't make it, we'll make the public comments on video. They can receive it. If there are no comments, we'll just cancel the meeting. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
So, Councilmember, you have a scheduled special meeting Thursday, January 23rd, joint with the commission. We have a scheduled meeting January 28th. You have had countless commission meetings for this home charter. The opportunities have been given and given and given. At some point, excuse me, the commission has done their work. The people have had their opportunity. I can't sit here and think there's a citizen out there that was afraid in McLendon-Chisholm to come or felt uncomfortable to come and talk to somebody of the 14 people that were there, that not one of them would have been comfortable to go to say something to one of them. And a council member was a liaison. It just doesn't make sense to add more work to the great work that they've already done. How do you commend somebody at the same time correcting them. It just blows me away. It's y'all's decision on the council, but it just makes no sense to me. You have a council member who has done the work. You have a commission who has done the work. You have an attorney who's been here for 3 out of the 5. It's time to allow the people who have done the work to make the decisions for that work that's been done. That's just my input, but y'all's call.
Our work is done when our work is done. You know? And we want to make sure you get the best possible document. I don't see anybody saying we need to close the door early, and we do what we can do while we can do it until that door is closed. It's.
I could take a show of hands.
I want to make sure I understand where we're at. We've got the joint meeting on the 23rd, and we have our meeting on the 28th. And at both of those, there's an opportunity for members of the public to provide input based upon what they know. Okay, and so that's the entirety of these meetings. Is that, Mr. Day, is that, or were you looking for an additional day?
I was looking for the possibility of an additional day that if it wasn't necessary, you just cancel it. It's that simple. I mean, that's all I'm asking for.
And our drop dead date is the 11th. Is that, or the commission's drop dead date is?
I'll let Councilmember Brewer answer that, so that way it comes from the man who's done the work.
Yeah, to get it on the ballot, the drop dead date is February 11th.
And so I would.
Well, it's the 14th, but our council meeting is the 11th.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to move it back another week as a drop dead date to the 7th. So we would have arguably between the 8th and the 7th if we needed to have an additional meeting on the special, additional special meeting. Is there any way, and we have to have 3 days notice for that, correct?
Well, that's what we're doing now is we're getting it started right now. I was just going to propose the 4th, which is Tuesday the 4th. And if it's something that we decide that we don't need to do, we just cancel it. Yeah. But I don't have a problem penciling it onto the calendar if that's what needs to be done. Again, this is about just maximizing public feedback.
Are there hearings after the 11th? Or there's other opportunities but no, the 11th is it because the exhibit has to be introduced at that time.
Yeah, the 11th would be the absolute last day for the commission to present their final product. The council votes to put it on the ballot so we can comport with the February 14th deadline.
How many meetings has the commission had so far, Councilmember Brewer?
They've had 2, 4, 6, 8. They've had 8. We had in 26. So we had 9 meetings.
So have those 9 meetings been open to the public?
Yes.
So 9 meetings open to the public, 9 meetings open to the public. We're going to have a special meeting on the 23rd for the public to come up. That will be 10.
And the council.
And then the council meeting on the 28th, that's 11. But we have to have that 12th to make sure we sleep at night. You're the council, you make the vote. I say 11's enough. We've had the second, we've had the motion. I'm going to call it to a vote. Councilmember Easter, where are you at, sir?
And where am I at? I don't really know that we need an extra day on this thing, but depending on what we find on these other days, we could always schedule one.
We could always schedule one. And I can even call an emergency meeting if I need to, and I don't need the 3 days of that. Is that correct, or is that different? Just was asking. Okay. So we could call it, I mean, to schedule it now doesn't make sense. If we get to that point, we have the time still after the 28th. I could still have enough time to call that one on the 4th. We don't need to pencil it in today. Councilmember Brewer?
I was just going to say that I suspect that we will know on the 23rd how much more work, if there needs to be done. If it's a couple small things, it can go on the 28th. But ultimately, Chairman Russo will be able to decide if this is something that we need to discuss further, because that's what we charged the commission to do, to deal with that. And so,
Mr. Day?
This is just about getting public comment. That's all it is. And you guys,
We were
that's all it
going,
is.
we were going to a vote.
Well, hold on. But no, there's discussion happening here. All I'm asking is that we bring, if I called a special meeting, we get accused of conspiring. So I put it on the open meeting to have an organic conversation about it so everybody could see it coming. And that's what I'm doing. I'm getting pushback saying, well, if we did, there's nothing behind this other than just trying to be in front of it. And I think it's easier if you just go ahead and just approve it. And then if you don't need it, you cancel it. It's not a big deal. What the harder deal to do is to put all of this machination in effect of contacting the city attorney and saying, we need to get a special meeting going, and we need to get this, that, and the other. This is about being proactive rather than reactive, and that's all I'm trying to do.
I can guarantee you as the mayor, if that ends up coming up, which as Councilmember Brew has done all the work and has been the liaison to the commission, if they come to me and say, we're going to need a special meeting on the 4th, I will call the special meeting for the 4th, and you will have your special meeting. That's where I'm at. Mr. Tucker?
I'll go ahead and I'm in favor of voting for this in the positive, but yes, it's just a question of how much more time we need on this to discuss it. I think by the 28th we should have a fairly good sense of whether or not we need more time. And if you don't call a special meeting, one of us will call a special meeting if we feel like we need more time.
Just said I would do it. So we'll call it to a vote then. All those, so what the motion is to approve or disapprove, or I guess it's to approve the special meeting, or consider actually. So we don't even have to take action if I'm correct on that, Mr. Hollow. It says we don't have to take any action because it doesn't say anything. But if we're not going to call for the special meeting now, then no action taken. Then the meeting would go to council member reports and announcements if we're not going to take any action. So we had a motion and a second. So my question is, but it was to consider. It was never to, right.
That's the action, and nobody wanted to do that. So you took that motion and seconded it, and you did. So you discussed and considered, and there is no motion, additional motion that comes after that.
Okay.
So you're saying there's none that could be done?
Yeah, if somebody wants to say, hey, I want to based on that, we had a motion in a second, we discussed it, we considered it, and now based upon that, I would make a motion to call a special meeting for February 4th. If there's a second, then you have a vote.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping
So
to do.
make the motion.
I would like to move that we schedule a special meeting for February 4th, pursuant to home rule charter feedback that we're getting from the public.
Is there a second? Mr. Easter, your vote.
I'm going to vote nay on that.
Mr. Brewer.
nay.
Mr. Day.
Yay.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes.
I'm a nay. That will take us to council member reports and announcements. Mr. Easter, sir.
I've got nothing.
Mr. Brewer.
I'm not going to talk about the home rule charter stuff because we've done plenty of that. I was at Emergency Services Committee meeting today. One of the things they kind of brought up, they were talking about the dams and grant money. But what they realized is before they can apply for any kind of grant, they're not even sure what kind of grants there is. There has to be a study done on those, a dam that may be problematic. The cost is somewhere around $100,000. So they were talking about looking at the worst one and then getting with whatever municipality happens to be nearby to kind of work something out. But that was very preliminary, but I thought I'd bring that up. The other thing was EMS is wanting planning, wanting from planning from every city what it's looking like the next 5 to 10 years to discuss, so they can come up with their staffing plans for the next 5 to 10 years. So, I'll get with Conrad tomorrow about that, but that would be something, I guess, for Asa to discuss.
Mr. Day? No comments. Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, just some comments on the current status of the outer loop. The outer loop has become a big point of discussion up at Commissioner's Court, and for references purposes, I'd recommend that anybody go to the video of the most recent court meeting, which was this past Tuesday, and specifically items 17, 18, 19 are testifying to maybe a change in direction of what the outer loop may look like, or whether it's actually going to be fulfilled. It's been outer loop is major freeway coming in from down in Kaufman County up from the 20, 30, from the 80, from the 20 and 80 down south, going up to Collin County, and so it'll be a major thoroughfare for carrying traffic between the 30 and the 20 down south. So look for changes in what might occur there, and would recommend again. And we have a meeting, a public meeting on the 26th, I believe it is. Workshop coming up, and I would recommend people go either attend up at the county courthouse to during that session, or watch video online. Get some more insights into what's going on in terms of the outer loop, which is important for all of us.
It's a good report. Thank you. I'm just going to comment real quick on Edwards Road. There's a huge meeting in the morning with myself, fire chief, fire marshal, and some other members to try to come up with a true viable solution repair, not patchwork anymore. Patchwork is throwing money away, and we keep doing that, and it's time to just start doing work. If we want to be city, we got to do city things. I believe this also extends now to Conrad, and do you have anything you want to add, Conrad? If not, I will adjourn us. We're good. It is 9:21, and we are adjourned.